What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about the best build for every single class right now, according to the top 1,000 players on d4armory.io. A Reddit user called Julian Dark put together a sheet which details what skills are used by the top players for each of the different classes. And so we're just going to look at what abilities are the best players using, and that's basically the build that they're going. And it can give you an idea of what's really working at the very top. So we're going to go through Barbarian, Druid, Necromancer, Rogue, and Sorcerer. Starting with a Barbarian, we have Lunging Strike is far and away the most used basic skill at 92.24% use. Definitely agree with this one. Lunging Strike has some great enhancements and bonuses. It clearly just blows away every other basic skill, as you can see, and that's what the players at the top are using. When it comes to core skills, looks like Whirlwind is the way. However, Hammer of the Ancients does have a small segment of users using that as well. Whirlwind Barb seems to be the way at the top. When it comes to defensives, we got Challenging Shout and Rallying Cry being used a lot of the time. Almost every single barb at the top uses Rallying Cry, and same goes for Challenging Shout. When it comes to brawling, we've got War Cry at our top ability here. We've got 98.99% of barbs using it. So basically all three shouts, Whirlwind, Lunging Strike, and then for the ultimate, they use Wrath of the Berserker for that awesome damage. So that's the Barbarian build that everyone seems to be running at the top. When it comes to Druid, which I've been playing a ton of, so I kind of can guess what's being used. We've got Storm Strike at 20%, makes total sense, and then Earth Spike at 67.72%. So you've got basically you're either going a Storm Druid or a Earth Druid, it looks like. When it comes to core skills, Pulverize at 76.52. Everyone's running that Pulverize Werebear. When it comes to defensives, Debilitating Roar at 70% and Earth and Bulwark at basically 90%. Also got Bloodhowl and Cyclone Armor a little bit on the map, not so much Cyclone Armor, but some players are using Bloodhowl. When it comes to the companion, 20% are using Poison Creeper, so that fits into some builds nicely. And then when it comes to Wrath, we've got Hurricane at almost 20% and Trample at a dominating 84.65%. And finally, our ultimate, everyone is using Grizzly Rage, and that's thanks to the fact that you could even use Grizzly Rage as a Storm Werewolf thanks to the aspect which makes you turn into a Grizzly Werewolf instead of Werebear. So Druids pretty much all fall into that same build as well. So unfortunately, not seeing a lot of build diversification so far with the Barbarian and Druid. We'll see if that changes for the Necro. So when it comes to the Necromancer, it looks like 20% of players keep their skeletons. Raise skeleton at about 21% of players. When it comes to your basic skill, we've got Bone Splinters at 47% and Reap actually at 30%. So there seems to be a Shadow Necro that is quite popular, or at least somewhat competing for that basic skill. When it comes to your core skill, 67% use Bone Spear and 11% use Blight. So it's really Bone Spear or for the most part. When it comes to Macabre, looks like every single ability gets used a little bit. Bone Prison a little bit less so. We've got Blood Mist at 74% and Corpse Explosion at that same. Both of those are so fantastic. You know, Blood Mist is the unstoppable mechanic. I can see every single Necromancer using that ability. When it comes to Corruption, they've got Decrepify, 25%. Corpse Tendrils at 74.87%. I know there's some great synergies and aspects with Corpse Tendrils and Corpse Explosion, so I absolutely see Corpse Tendrils being taken if you're getting Corpse Explosion. Bone Spirit with just 11% of players taking it. And then finally, when it comes to the ultimate, 68% of Necromancers take Bone Storm and Army of the Dead at 14.4. So you can see that Bone Necro is definitely at the top, and it looks like some players do go Summoner Necro, and it seems like that's probably working as well, but it is not nearly as popular as that Bone Necromancer build. When it comes to the Rogue, almost everyone is going Puncture for their basic skill. Absolutely nothing else even comes close. 89% of Rogues take Puncture. When it comes to Core, we've got Twisting Blades. No surprise there. Twisting Blades Rogue is definitely the most popular. When it comes to Agility, we've got Dash and Shadow Step, both very high. Caltrops not being used pretty much at all, with just 2% of players using it. Subterfuge skills, we've got Dark Shroud at 46% and Poison Trap at 72%. Concealment and Smoke Grenade not even coming close with just 1 and 4% respectively. When it comes to Imbuements, I'm actually surprised here. Shadow Imbuement's only at 28%. I thought almost everyone would go it, but Poison Imbuement as well at 21%. So it seems like it's a pretty decent split between Shadow and poison imbuements at the top of the game. When it comes to your ultimate, Death Trap is the way. We've got 58.91% of rogues choosing to go Death Trap, with only 10% of rogues going Shadow Clone at the end game. This one was pretty surprising. I thought Shadow Clone plus Barrage could do very, very good damage to bosses, but it looks like Death Trap is the way for that insane AoE damage. Now, finally, we get to the Sorcerer. It looks like when it comes to basic skills, it looks like Arc Lash is number one, and about half of players, 27%, about half of that, 13%, go Frostbolt. And then when it comes to core skills, surprise, surprise, Chain Lightning is not even reaching 3%. Actually, Ice Shards at 64.25%. Unbelievable. You know, when I made my Barrier Sorceress video, I thought it was really good. I wasn't, I said, it's not Chain Lightning. I didn't know if it would beat Chain Lightning, but lo and behold, Ice Shard Sorcerer looks like it is at the top of the game for sorcerers. I can't wait to roll one myself. Very, very nice. Majority of players running Ice Shards. When it comes to defensives, pretty much all of them are getting used. Of course, 99% are using Teleport, 98% are using Frost Nova, 96% are using Ice Armor, and 85% of sorcerers are using Flame Shield. Very, very nice at the top of the game there. When it comes to Conjuration, there is absolutely no use whatsoever. We've got less than 1% of sorcerers using Lightning Spear, 2% using Ice Blades, and believe it or not, less than 2% of sorcerers even use Hydra. Hydra used to be so good in the open beta. Everyone thought it was like sorcerer's best ability, and look at this, they nerfed it, and now nobody really uses it. When it comes to mastery skills, Blizzard with 3%, barely any use, Ball Lightning with 1%, hardly any use, and then finally we see Meteor with 10%, which quite frankly only 10% of the top 1,000 users are even using it. Very, very few use Meteor. Firewall at 5%, even less than the others. Now when it comes to the ultimate, we actually have a pretty decent split across the three different ultimates. Number one, we've got Deep Freeze, 29.71%. This is what I thought players would go. If you're going a type of Ice Shards, Frost Bolts, Frost Nova, you got a lot of freeze in your build. I figured you'd also throw in Deep Freeze. That's what I ultimately kind of decided on with the Barrier Sorceress build. But we also have a very close contender with Unstable Currents coming in at 28.15%. So it seems like this ultimate is almost as good, and it sounds really great if you ask me. A chance to use another skill when you have this ultimate on is very strong. Reminds me a lot of Nature's Fury for the Druid. 28.15% is not that far away from 29.71, so it's pretty even split between Unstable Currents and Deep Freeze. Now, believe it or not, the third ultimate skill, Inferno, actually does get some use though as well. Inferno has a 19.69% use, which is actually quite good, and pretty surprised about that, but Inferno does some very good AoE damage, and so there you go. Fire Sorceress damage, still absolutely viable. I thought this was very interesting, and it gave a look at Blizzard should definitely look at this. Is there not enough build diversity? I mean, look at the Barbarian. I can absolutely say no, everyone's going the same Whirlwind build. Look at the Druid. Almost everyone is getting this Grizzly Rage Pulverized build. Necromancer, it's Bone Necromancer. Rogue, it's the Twisting Blades Rogue. Then Sorcerer, it's the, everyone's getting every defensive and no one's getting Conjuration. No one's really getting mastery skills. It's kind of interesting. These classes are just being played in this one same way. So you might wonder, where is the build diversity? Well, this is something for Blizzard to take a look at. Maybe not nerf these builds, but perhaps make other builds even better. So just thought I wanted to share this data. Julian Dark, thanks for sharing these stats from Armory, d4armory.io. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe for more Diablo 4 content.